our goal now is 20 million. And I put that goal in place when we were at 10.5 million. And I said in 5 years, we're going to double to 20 million.
Mm.
So that's the trajectory we're on now.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to Lead the Field, a trade launch podcast. I'm your host, Justin Georgopoulos, and on today's episode, we have an absolute legend in the contracting space. This is a gentleman that built and founded a nationwide charity called Paint It Forward, scaled an 8-figure painting business, all from being a high school dropout that learned how to hang wallpaper. We went very, very deep on the culture of his business, how he was able to believe and achieve things beyond his reach through writing out visions, how he's helping many people around the world write out their visions to achieve their goals. And we got into strategy of marketing, leadership, delegation, everything that I want to know so I can take what he's doing and do it in my business. And I'm sure you're going to want to too. It's been an absolute pleasure working with his team. I'm helping coach the objection handling and sales for this gentleman. So welcome Josh Abramson with Albright Painting. So we got Josh. Josh, honored to have you on. You're actually someone that I saw at the Patrick Bet David event where I was like, I got to reach out to this guy, and life happened where we got connected. So
Yeah.
love if you give a quick introduction for yourself.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I'm Josh Abramson. I started the company Albright Painting. This is our logo, our hat. Started it back when I was just 21 years old, which was about 38 years ago, and started with a just a dream to have my own business and not have to work for anybody. And I wasn't very good in school, didn't think that was the path for me, college or anything like that. Do you want me to tell you about my company and what we do and all of that?
Absolutely. I want to hear everything.
Okay. So we're currently a company that is located in Santa Clarita Valley, which is about 40 miles north of Los Angeles, California. And we service the greater Los Angeles area, and we are currently expanding to the Orange County area as well. We paint interior and exterior homes and HOAs and commercial buildings. We're also a general contractors, and we're able to do a lot of repairs that are needed prior to painting. And we mainly focus on a repaint uh, services. So we don't really do any new construction, but we do a lot of repainting of structures.
Awesome. Awesome. And if you
Yeah,
don't mind me asking, what's the revenue at for the company?
I don't mind you asking. We're currently at on target to do well. Our budget is 14 million this year. We had a slightly slow start in the first quarter, but that has changed now that we're in May and towards
Hmm.
the end of May. So we've made up a lot of ground already in the first in the next 2 months. So
Wow. Wow.
yeah,
So 8-figure painting business, very rare to see, especially in the painting field. From at least from my circle and what I've seen, it takes a
yeah,
lot of groundwork to get there. Because it's not
it
all
does.
massive job sizes. There's some smaller jobs. It's a lot of volume to get there. So you started at 21 years old. What was Josh doing before 21? Were you working as a painter? What did that look like?
No. Funny enough, at 21 years old, I was working for a an electrician and an appliance repair company, and it was called Mr. Build. It was a franchise, I think, and I didn't love it. I was not wanting to apprentice as an electrician,
Yeah.
and I saw this couple come in, and they started wallpapering in a room that we were hanging light sconces in. And I looked at that and I thought, that probably won't take 7 years to apprentice and learn and all of that. That's what it was back then for learning to be an electrician.
Wow.
So I looked into a school, found an occupational school that would teach this course of how to wallpaper in like 6 weeks or 8 weeks, something like that. And I quit my job, did that, and found that I had a knack for this installing wallpaper. And so that's how I started my business with just a few wood signs stenciled on uh, and hung them on telephone poles until the city said to me, "You can't do that. Those are our telephone poles. You have to figure out a new way to advertise." But it brought in a little bit of business for me at first, and then I figured out, how to do a little bit of advertising after that. But it was a slow start. Um, learning how to do the business, and at first my mindset was I can only make as much money as my hands can produce because I
Mm,
was a wallpaper hanger, and my mindset was that if they're as good as I am, they're going to have their own business, so it's going to be hard to have somebody come work for me.
mm.
And I realized I was wrong in that thinking. It took about 10 years though for me to figure that out, so
Wow.
it's a little slower. And I realized that there are a lot of people out there that are pretty talented, and they just don't want their own business.
Mm,
And when I found that, and that was through the big Northridge earthquake that we had out here in California. It was a big, massive earthquake, and it caused a lot of work afterwards. And I had to hire people. And at that point, I figured that part out and and then I got asked to do painting. And a friend of mine, when I was getting my license to be a wallpaper hanger, he was another wallpaper hanger. He said, "Hey, I would get your painting contractor's license as well." And I said, "Oh, really? Okay." I did it, but I wasn't painting yet. And then he proved to be right. Yes, I remember him, Jerry Redondo, and he gave me that advice. So I did it, and then sure enough, we were getting asked to do a lot of painting, and then I would hire in somebody to do the painting while I did the wallpapering.
mm,
And I never really did any of the house painting. I was more of the creative side. So I did any faux finishes when that started to become popular. I took classes and learned that. And this was way before YouTube and the internet. We didn't have those type of tools. So
mm,
ended up doing uh, a lot of painting, but it wasn't me. And so I had to learn through watching talented craftsmen do it and going to places like the PCA, the Painting Contractors of America, and learning from guys like that on, the right techniques, what to do, right tools, all of that.
So
And
you
I
were
think
on,
it's
yeah.
it's helped me in some ways.
Mhm.
And where because I can always see the positive in most things, like I can always find there's a balance in everything. So the good side of that is I didn't have my hands in the bucket all the time. So I was forced to allow others to do that work. And that's what really helped grow us.
Mm.
A lot of times
So,
guys will get jump back in because they know they can do it. And then they end up slowing down the train that they can't grow to the next level if they want to.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So when did things start really like rolling for you? So you're doing the wallpaper, okay, you get the painting contractor's
hmm
license, you start seeing kind of how to paint. Were you doing some painting yourself still? Like you were working on the tools a little bit, or was it always delegating painting?
Always delegating house painting.
Got it.
Anything artistic I was doing when it
Okay.
came to the faux finishing, priming before the wallpapering, things like that, prepping.
Yeah. So it sounds like a massive gap from that to
hmm
14 million, right? That's just like
Yeah,
there is obviously so
yeah,
many learning lessons and mentors and story behind that.
that's right.
When did you feel things started really rolling? Like, you remember when you hit your first million? Remember
I do.
how old were you?
Yeah,
When was that? How much into the business?
yeah. So my first million, we were painting. It wasn't wallpapering. It didn't get anywhere near that with wallpapering. But when we started painting, I hired a coach, and and he helped me understand that I wasn't charging enough per hour,
Mm.
and he helped me build in those parts to my hourly charge so that I understood it. And at first you're nervous. You're like, I
Oh yeah.
can't add that in. I can't charge that. And you realize you need to in order to grow and be profitable to reinvest back into the business instead of being out of money all the time. you have to do this, and you just have to learn ways through uh, providing more value and better tools that you're presenting to the customer, and then giving them the experience they're expecting.
Mhm.
If you can do that, you can charge more.
Mhm.
And I had to learn that through some consulting, and I wasn't afraid to spend that money for a better lifestyle or a better experience for the company. So I would learn from others because I didn't know certain things. Like I remember after reaching my first million, I was pulling out my hair. I'm like, going, man, I've made I'm making a million plus, and yet I don't know if I have any money left over at the end because it's all coming in and going out so fast, and
Mhm.
you're trying to figure it out. And I remember, here's a story I've told, and it's the truth. It's exactly how I remember it. There was a PCA conference in Las Vegas, and I was already doing $1 million in business. And I remember driving there praying, I need a mentor because I don't know what I'm doing at this $1 million mark. And I remember showing up, and there was a big conference room, a lot of contractors, and there was uh, this guy, Kevin Nolan, standing in the back of that room when Michael Gerber was speaking. I think it was Michael Gerber that wrote the book,
Yeah. E-myth.
yeah, Ema.
Mhm.
And he was speaking at the time. And I went up to Kevin Nolan and I said, "Hey, will you mentor me? I don't know what I'm doing." And he looks at me and he's like, "No, I can't, I'm not going to mentor you. I can't really do that. But I will tell you what, if you write a business plan, I'll help you get through the certification of painting contractors to become certified." I said, "Okay, I'll do it, but I don't know how to write a business plan. I don't know anything about it. Again,
Yeah.
no Google search. It's not one
No
of those
chat
things you know how to,
GPT.
no chat GPT." So I'll do it. But he did, he said to me right then and there, he said, "But I am starting a consulting company with my brother, and we're not ready yet. We're going to be doing it, but maybe you should talk to my brother." And I'm like, "Well, is he a painting contractor?" And he's like, "No, no, he comes from the corporate world." And I'm like, "Well, I don't want to talk to him. I want
Mhm.
to talk to you. You've got a successful painting company." And he introduced me to his brother that day out in the parking lot of one of those grand hotels. And I remember talking to Brian Nolan, that's his brother, and talking to him about what he knows. And by the end of that conversation, I'm like, "Sign me up. I need something now. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I'm going to go out of business because I dropped out of high school. I didn't have the financial education. I didn't have any mentors around me to mentor me through this." And I said, "You got to start this now." And he's like, "Well, we're not ready yet." And I became his first client. Like, I think he
Wow.
started within, like, I pushed them to start sooner than they wanted to. And I think a month later or 6 weeks later, we were starting our first. And I'm still a client of theirs because
Wow.
that has been a big growth. But prior to there, I had some mentorships, some groups that I was a part of that I would kind of learn from others and stuff.
So, okay, so what did the growth look like? So we had, the 1 million, and then do you know, like, was it many years of incremental growth, or was there any type of slingshot growth?
There was never super big slingshot growth because I never did anything that warranted that,
Mm.
meaning, any sort of growth that was more than 20%, 30%. I mean, I think that was a maximum growth, but I
Mhm.
never doubled in size unless we were early on in the
Mhm.
business, right?
Mhm.
But once you're at the million, 2 million mark, I wasn't going from 2 million to 5 million, from 5 million to well, I didn't have the tools back then to do that. I think
Mhm.
now I could possibly do it,
Mhm.
but as a business now, our goal now is 20 million. And I put that goal in place when we were at 10.5 million. And I said in 5 years, we're going to double to 20 million.
Mhm.
So that's the trajectory we're on now. And I had written out the plan, how we're going to get there, what things we're going to need. And there, and some of it is, I don't know what we need per se, because I've never been to 20 million, right? So I have to educate myself as we're going, and I have to challenge myself to be a leader that can grow to 20 million, because it doesn't come naturally. It's not something I can just figure out on my own.
Absolutely not. And I see your Instagram, you're doing book reviews, you're reading books a lot, you're investing into, like I said, I saw you at the vault. He put you on the
Yeah,
screen and talked about you, and it really opened my eyes of what's possible in the painting contracting space. I've hit certain numbers, but not close to the 14. We're hoping to get to 10 in the next 2 years. We're on path to do that.
that's great.
But then seeing these numbers, it's like it really did actually help me open my eyes. Where instead of me thinking, okay, maybe I have to add more services in, like roofing or this. Um, so what are some of like the with Nolan Consulting, aside from that, something that other people could maybe get today in terms of books? Like, what are some of the key books that you read they feel like helped you at least become the leader that you had to grow into?
Um, Very, very interesting. So with Patrick Bit David,
Mhm.
I'll tell you a little bit of a backstory before, and that is I was around a lot of guys that were reading books, but I wasn't reading books.
Hmm.
And I would hear them talk about this book or that book. And a lot of times they would say to me, "Oh, you must have read that book because of the things I'm doing."
Hmm.
And there was sort of a natural, I think, God-given talent that I've got about entrepreneurialism that allows me to understand some of these things without reading a book.
Hmm.
But I was also around people that read books that maybe shared a piece or something from that book that I didn't know and I'm now using.
Hmm.
But fast forward now to, and this is for years, I would say I probably read 10 books in my lifetime up until I was in my um, I mean, early 50s. I mean, I just
Oh,
didn't
wow.
read. Yeah, I did
Wow.
not read. I never, I just didn't. I didn't like it. I would fall asleep. I didn't know. I'd read the pages and then I'd go, what did I just read? And I'd have to go back and it just thought it was not the way for me.
Wow.
Anyway, Patrick, but David, when I grew up enough to afford consulting with him, which was an amazing opportunity to be consulting with him and just a few other guys at the same time. He challenged me and said, in order for me to be doing that with him, I have to read a book every month before I meet with him and I have to give him a book report. And I'm like, crap, I don't know how to read books like that. And it takes me a year to read a book if I do it. And so, anyway, I hired a reading coach and that I met through Patrick Bet David's group and a young guy named David Kirkpatrick. And he taught me how to read faster and retain more. And that was life changing for me because then I was able to pick up books and I desired to pick them up and come up. And I realized, so when you ask which book or which few books, I could tell you what are in my top 5 books, but they're not all business books or my top 10. In fact, my first year out of learning to read, I read like 23 books in that first year and then 40 some the next year. And now I'm on pace to do about 40 to 50 books a year. And what I find is a lot of these books that I'm reading support each other.
Mm.
So you're reading a book and you're like, oh, I just read that 2 books earlier, and it may be saying it slightly different, but it's just resecuring what you're
Mm.
learning and how to grow as a leader, or a mindset, or a mind shift, or things that you can put into play with culture um, and training and all of those things. But certainly, if you wanted a few book recommendations, I'll give it to you here now. But it was really that was that's my biggest thing is I find that if I am reading daily and reading consistently, I have more conversations with people about things that help them and help myself because I'm staying involved.
Mm.
When I read something, put it down and don't go back to something for, let's say, 3 weeks, a month, and I'm just not reading, my conversations, everything of it around it is not influenced anymore.
Mm. Wow.
So, And you know, it's a good time that I like to do is just in the morning, get up, read, 10, 15 pages, before you start your day.
Mm,
And then you meditate on that and you have it. It's funny how when you're reading about it, your mind is now searching for things that come
mm.
up in that. Like it's the same thing with a car, right?
Yeah,
You
you see the
you
red
buy your
car.
car, yeah, you see
Yeah,
the red car, you buy a red car, now all of a sudden you see red cars. It's the
yeah,
same thing. And
yeah.
I think that, and I think I don't know if it's David Kirkpatrick that said it or I've heard it somewhere, but that it's everyone thinks of reading now as old technology,
Mm,
but it's still the best technology for training. And that's why some of the richest people and the smartest people in the world are readers.
yeah.
And, I just put a poster up in our conference room about our shared language because now I have my whole team, my management team, even my field guys who English is a second language for them. We're reading, we have a book club, we call it the ABC Club, the Albright Book Club. And we read books together once a month. And then
Mm,
we do a book report on them because I learned this from Patrick and David. And now we're all learning to be leaders together. We're all
wow.
growing. So I put this poster up of some of our top books that have our shared language.
Mm,
One's called QBQ. There's a book called QBQ, and we talk to each other about QBQ yourself or QBQ. What's the question behind that question?
mm,
And we talk about unreasonable hospitality and
mhm.
how whenever somebody does something nice for somebody, say that's we're giving unreasonable hospitality. And let's see what else is on there. The SL2 leadership on, are you a D1 or a D4? And ideal team players, are you humble, hungry, or smart?
I
You
just
have to
bought
be
that
all
book.
three. You just what?
I just bought that book.
It's a great book. We
Yeah.
love Patrick Lencioni's books because they typically start with a fable and they tell a long story. And then all of a sudden at the end, you get the 10 takeaways that you need to get out of that story.
Mhm.
Very relatable, easy to read.
Yeah.
And so my team loves them. Yeah, so things like that.
Yeah, I love that. And the reason I asked is because I see your Instagram, and I'll put it in the YouTube below the video. But that's what I see now. So my first impression of you is this guy is a major reader, which obviously you are. But it's interesting to see that that wasn't the case as you were growing the company. So
No,
so
yeah,
was a lot of it just feedback and losing or learning from lessons of loss, like hiring mentors?
yeah.
Would you say that the biggest trajectory was it from the mentors, or also just going through the fire and learning from the lessons?
Both because I would say prior to my reading, my new love for reading, I would say prior to that, I said I learned by fire, by trial, by fire. I learned through, I always considered myself street smart or, sort of that have that logic that, some people have, some people don't have. I didn't need to learn it from books.
Mhm.
And so I have I've always felt like I've had a good intuition and I've been told I do. And so I would intuitively know some things to do, but it was slower learning because you hit your head, you go, that wasn't right, let's try this. That's not right, it's not quite right. So I learned that way. I learned by the see I wasn't as proactive as I was more reactive. And I think after reading and learning, I can be more proactive because now people that have gone before me are telling me what to look out for. Before I would intuitively know a way to go, but I didn't have any guidance to before I got there, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, this is a question I want to ask you, especially at the, let's say, the $1 to $3 million range. You might see someone like yourself and you can get intimidated. Like, how do you even get there? Like, I'm not as smart as this person, right? And I guess what advice would you give when if you can relate yourself back to that stage from the 1 to 3 million, where maybe they see the revenue coming in, but the numbers don't really make sense. They don't see the profit coming. They're questioning, should they even be doing this? What advice would you give to someone at that kind of earlier phase, but still has some traction to really get to the next level?
I would tell them to listen to the people around them that maybe know them best, to ask them where they see your weakness is, because, or blind spot. I would say blind spots, because that's something that we're even doing now. Very few people know their blind spots, right? Because then you wouldn't call it blind.
Mm.
And so you don't know what sometimes you're doing. I don't know if you can hear that helicopter going over. Okay, there's a helicopter going over. So the you you don't know your blind spots. So when somebody tells you what some of those blind spots are, you might stay open to that and try to fix some of those things. Another thing I would say, I mean, the obvious thing and the pat answer is find some mentors that can show you the way. But now I would say reading books. But the very first thing I would tell them to do is write out their vision and primary aim of where they see themselves in their business in 5 years.
Mm.
That's something that I've done a lot of teaching to others to do as it was taught to me. And I'm thankful to be able to give that back now, and because I've experienced it over and over again. And that is when you sit down and you say, okay, I don't know how I'm going to get to, let's say they're at 1 to 3 million and they want to get to 6 million. I would teach them to write out a story of seeing themselves there
Mm.
on the day in the life of what it's like
Mm.
6 year or 5 years from today at 6 million. What are you experiencing? What did you accomplish? Not just the revenue, but what did you accomplish with that? What did you accomplish personally in your own life?
Mm.
And I'd write in a story form, get really creative with it, get as detailed as you can with it, include people around you that you love and what they're doing in 6 years or 5 years from now. Or you can shorten it and do it in 3 years if you want, if 5 years scares you, or if 3 years scares you, do it in 5 years. But it doesn't matter. I teach 5 years,
Mhm.
and I teach people, write that story out, everything you can think of, as if it's happening, not
Mm.
not when I get there, but today I am.
Oh, I gotta
And
show
you,
you something.
all
I gotta
right.
show you something. I'm just itching in my seat as you're saying this. So that's
Hmm.
exactly so as a team,
Look at that.
we do this together. So all of our salespeople, our production managers, we write out our vision. We do it for the year ahead. I actually have never done one for 5 years. I'm going to do that today. Um, but yeah, right in the first person, it's December 31st, 2025. And as I look back on the year, I'm in awe, amazed, extremely grateful for the way everything worked out. And then I go through what my day looks like, how the team
That's
looks.
right.
And
So you're doing it.
it's funny. I actually wrote that we got a brand new warehouse and all this stuff, and it's perfect
Yeah.
for the team. And so our other warehouse burnt down because I wrote this. It was like November,
2024.
yeah, November of last year. And
Yeah.
on December 24th, 2024, our warehouse burnt down. It was kind of a shitty warehouse. It burnt down, and then luckily this just came about. We got this spot, and it's like so crazy of how it is what I wrote. And
Justin, I get the chills as you speak about that because I too have the very same experience, and I teach this to others all across the country. I've been doing it for years,
wow.
and I get stories just like yours from people all across the country and even outside of our country. I get them once a month. I get somebody sending me their story the things they experienced that they wrote that they had no idea was going to actually happen, and it does.
Yeah.
And so what I share with people in this is
Wow.
I have so many stories about myself and the stories I've written. In fact, I'm sitting in a beach condo that I wrote about back in 2020. And I got it. I am sitting on the water in
Wow.
Malibu. And this is something I wrote about, but I've been wanting this beach condo for 25 years. And now I finally came true. Now, I will tell you also that um, when people write these stories out, tell them to don't like you knew exactly where it was. Don't file it away and put it somewhere you never look at it again. In
Mm,
fact, I teach them to share it with somebody you respect.
mm,
Give that story now that you wrote it out and share it with somebody you respect and see what they think of it and how they respond. And then I tell them share it with somebody you love and see
mm,
what they think and that what they and then people come around and support you. And then I say, the more you can share it, the
mm.
more opportunity you have for it to come true. A lot of people think opposite. They think, oh, I don't want to jinx it, or
Yeah.
I don't
Mm,
want to tell anybody in case it doesn't happen. Well, what kind of mindset is that? I don't want to
mm.
tell anybody in case it doesn't. I don't want to look like a failure. What? Then you're already you're
Yeah.
halfway to failure at
Yeah, you're
that point,
halfway there.
right? So
Wow.
you got to be bought in. So I tell them, don't write it down as if you won the lottery and something you can't do, but
Hmm.
write it down as a stretch goal that you're like, man, I'd be really, really pleased if this happens,
I
right?
like that. A stretch
Yeah.
goal. Yeah, because
Hmm.
in the realm of possibility where it's not just complete write-off where it doesn't even connect anymore to where you
Right.
are. Um, and I remember my first few years of business, I remember writing out my vision and I was because I was reading Think and Grow Rich, and that's where I saw the template for writing out the vision. And I put it on my bedroom ceiling. And I don't know why I'm not doing that anymore. I think I gotta get back to that. But I put it on my bedroom ceiling. So I'd wake up and I'd read it. And my girlfriend
Yeah.
that's living with me time, she would start to memorize it because I read it out loud, and it came into fruition. And in ways that which you've obviously seen by doing this, in ways that it doesn't even sometimes make sense. It's like
Doesn't.
it's a
Yeah.
whole like quantum
I
mechanics
can
switch.
I can tell you, I was taught this by Kevin Nolan back in 2004. He read me his, it was 2004, 2005. He read me his primary aim, uh, and he shared it with me. And I was like blown away by it. I was like, wow, so this is where you see yourself in 5 years? And he was in Philadelphia on the plane ride home. I didn't know what I was going to write about. I just got inspired. And on the plane ride home, I couldn't stop writing, even though I
Hmm.
didn't know what I was going to sit down and write. But my heart already knew where it wanted to be in 5 years. And I just had to commit to the time to do it. And I did it. I started writing and I'm writing, writing, writing. I'm like, at the end of that, I had something. And the things that came true from that, I wrote it out in two. So it read as, I think it was 2004 that I wrote it. So in 2009 was the date that I was gonna all this was happening as I'm imagining.
Hmm.
And I look back at that 2009 writings, I still have it. And I didn't know anything. He said Michael Gerber, I think, wrote about that in his book back then. And again, I wasn't reading then. I
Hmm.
read it since. And in fact, what's funny is I just look at this vivid vision. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
heard of this, but I
No.
never heard of it until a year ago. And I read the book this year. It's like it's thin little book about writing out your vivid vision. It's the same type of thing.
Wow.
There's so many people believe in that. And um, so I tell people that sit commit to, like you just said, I'm going to do it later today. Like you might do that later today.
Hmm.
Um, but I just say commit to a time that you're going to do it. Be alone somewhere that you can be alone for a little while. And don't sit down and bullet point everything before you get to that sit down point, but just be committed to the time you're going to write and start writing and let it flow. But here's what I tell them too, is I tell them to be brave because if your heart, you're going to be like, oh shoot, can I write that down? Or what if they don't see themselves in the place they're at right now, and there's a big life change that needs to happen for them, and they kind of know it. I say write it, like
Hmm.
write it, and decide at the end of it if you are going to share it, right? So some people, I want them to be able to write without being afraid.
I
A
see.
lot of times they're afraid and it holds them back. So
Mm.
I'm like, write as if you really mean this in 5 years. That and I tell them at first, don't be afraid that write it like nobody's ever going to read it. But then when you're done with it, be ready to share it with somebody you respect and somebody you love.
Wow.
and you get to choose who those people are, and do that. So it's been powerful in a lot of people's lives, especially mine, and now it sounds like yours as well. And I think
It's
that's why when I met you at the PCA and you had heard of me prior to it, and I heard you teaching guys how to role play, and I'm like, that's my guy. I connect with that guy. So, and
wow.
now we have this, I really like your entrepreneurial um, thinking, and I align with the things that you think about as well. So happy to know you, happy to be in a relationship with you.
Well, it's an honor because I remember I have a picture on my phone of someone else's phone at the event of your phone number, but I was like, when am I gonna call this guy? And I didn't call you. I think I DM'd you on Instagram, but um, no response.
Yeah.
It's all good. It goes to hidden.
I didn't respond to you.
Well, I don't think you saw it. I went to spam, but it doesn't
Oh,
matter. You'll find it in there if you check.
yeah.
But it was, yeah, just then happened at the event. You came and sat at the table. So now we're
Yeah.
working together, and I'm drilling, role playing with the estimators, role playing with the CSRs.
Yeah.
How has that been? Like, how has been working with Trade Launch, working with myself, and helps with your company?
We're really happy. We're really happy with working with you. We've had a lot of sales training in the past, and some of my new estimators or salespeople, they have not, so they're brand new to you. But prior to that, we or not prior to that, since working with you though, you're providing something I've always wanted out of my other trainers, and that is a lot more role play.
Mhm.
My other trainers were spending a little too much time on theory, 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 talking about how's your day, what's challenges you're having, blah, blah, blah. No, no, no. I want to drill, drill, drill until you got it. And then we can do those things. And so
And
you're doing exactly what I've envisioned for my team is get these word tracks down, get the concept and the word tracks down, and then you'll be able to maneuver so that you can make it your own. But
mhm,
what everyone wants to do on the is, well, he says it one way, you say it another, and it's like, no, you can say it the wrong way, dude. You're or person, you're saying it, you're making somebody feel not okay when
mhm,
you say it that way versus this way.
mhm.
Words are very powerful, and communication is so challenging that if you're not saying things that bring people in or do that make that or lead them down a path for purchase,
Yeah.
then you could be screwing it up and you don't even know
A
it. We all
100%.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sales is leadership. It's leadership and helping people make
Hmm.
decisions because a lot of times with home improvement, there's a procrastination involved, there's a delay, and
Yeah.
it's service. And from what I've worked with a lot of companies in terms of drilling their sales reps, training them, and what I've seen from yours is like your recruiting process, what you have dialed in, and the culture really does like it's like you're duplicating like an ideal avatar. Like just from working with your different salespeople, I see the same type of energy, the same almost the same heart in them. Where whether it's Bobby or Jake or Shauna or these all these, there's something common about them, and I think it's the coachability, it's the eagerness. They seem very willing
Hmm.
and flexible. How has culture been a big point in building your company? When did you start really focusing on culture? Was it something you always had in mind? Was it something that kind of came from later down the line? And how do you instill culture in your business?
Well, the answer to that, there's multifaceted, but every company has a culture. It's just what culture do you have? And as every owner or entrepreneur has a certain style that they want or gravitate towards, right? And so people choose to work with certain types, and others it could become a real bummer working for a company if they don't align with your culture. So culture, so we're very transparent about what our culture is, and we're very upfront about it because when I started my business and I wrote that, remember I talked about business plan I had to
Mhm,
write
mhm,
from Kevin Nolan is telling me to write it. Well, the very two things I put in my business plan at the very, he said, you need to start. This is Brian Nolan teaching me how to write a business plan. And he's like, you have to start with a vision. What do you want to be known for? And I said,
mm,
okay. And this is, I didn't think about those things. I was just, you know, trying to grow my business.
mhm,
And I said, here's what we'll be known for. We'll be nationally and locally known for being a leader in the space. And we weren't. Nobody knew our name at that time. I barely was anybody, right? Doing $1 million, and not a lot of people knew who I was. I said, we'll be nationally, locally and nationally known for being a professional painting company that is setting the bar and changing the way people think about painting contractors. And the second thing we'll be known for as being a company that treats its employees as well as its very best customers.
mm,
So those were the only two things I wrote that we're going to be known for. And the reason why the culture part of it was so important to me at that time is it came from my desire to not want to work for a boss who was mean or just told me what to do for the sake of being uh, like lording it over people, like being
mm,
this type of guy. That's not who I am. And I didn't want to work for anybody like that. So it was important to me to understand people and to make sure I treat them with the same respect and the same honor that anybody in the company. And I learned early that a leader, our apprentices, our guys that just coming into the company can actually be a leader of somebody that's been there for 10 years in the mindset that if that apprentice has a life skill that this tenured tenured employee doesn't have, and this apprentice is telling him, oh, this is how you would be better with your children or your wife or your friends, or giving them some sort of advice, they all of a sudden become a leader in this person's mind. So I never
mm.
wanted an apprentice to feel like they could never be a leader.
Wow.
So I teach that teaching is leadership at Albright. So
Mm,
those who teach and train others to be the best that they can be are actually the leaders within our company. And we try to break the mold on why a lot of guys like want to hang on to their talent and how they do things because they don't want somebody to take their job,
mm,
because they don't want somebody, they don't, because they want to make more money, and they want to make sure that they can make more money and the company needs them and all that.
mhm. Call it gatekeeping.
We Right, we try to teach the opposite. We try to break that mindset
Mm,
and say, you do that, you hold yourself back, you hold the company back. Open up to train somebody to take over your position. When you do that, you become more valuable to us, to
wow.
the whole team. And
Wow.
we train and we teach on that. So, and
Wow.
you can't say it once. You gotta repeat it all the time, because it's a human nature thing that people have to deal with, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I have so many questions. I won't take too much time here.
I got time for you.
Another question I had, just to go into that, because you said it takes time and it's the training has to be, you have to repeat it and repeat it and keep that in the vision of the team. What do your meeting structures look like with your team at this size?
Um,
Are they
do
like
you mean
daily?
like?
Like are they daily
Oh
morning
yeah. Okay.
huddles?
So
You know,
yes. So
okay.
we have daily morning huddles, 15-minute daily morning huddles where we actually have a rally cry or a cheer, right? We're getting better
Put
at
your
that.
hands in and do the thing.
Similar,
Nice.
yeah. Where we
Okay.
all say, all bright, and who are we? All bright, those type of things.
And who's that
And
involved? Who does that involve? Is that the office staff, the sales? Is that the laborers? Is it the paint? Like,
yes, so our laborers aren't doing it as of yet.
okay.
We're trying to get there.
Hmm.
Um, and we're developing it from inside to then go outside.
Got it. Okay.
And we're still a little new at it. But something I learned from Will Guidara, who I mentor under as well now
Wow.
with Unreasonable Hospitality, is you never want to waste a meeting without inspiring your team. If
Mm,
you're just going over, we got to do this and make sure you do that and do all those things, then you're wasting that opportunity to inspire for better. So I'm always looking to inspire within those meetings. So every meeting that we have, it has to have that sort of element to it. Um, I don't, uh, I feel like meetings are a waste of time if they are not valuable, really valuable. They have to be visually stimulating, they have to be energetic, they have to have a lot of interaction. If they don't, then what are we doing? Right.
mm,
And our operation meeting, which we meet once a week, we have about 15 people in that meeting at a time. And we go and it's over in 45 minutes. And the culture is, we have some announcements, things that people need to know. Uh, but we talk about any unreasonable hospitality stories that we've experienced during the week that we
wow.
either provided for our clients or somebody provided for us or a vendor might have done or we did for each other within the company. There's a lot of those stories that get told. Then we review our online reviews, we read them out loud. Then we
Mm,
review our numbers, where we're at on our month, where we at year to date, leads, revenue. Then we review our operations on where we're at on certain jobs, any issues that we need to all learn from, like
mm,
had an issue on this job or this thing. What can we learn from it so that everyone in that room learns? It's
mm,
very brief. We don't go into detail. Um, a lot of guys have to take responsibility, um, not blame. I have to, where could I have made that better first? We talk a lot about that. And then we do a birthday celebrations, anything that's coming up the week, anniversaries, work anniversaries. And then we do something that shout outs. Uh, so you shout out anyone within that room or anybody on our team, even out in the field, about something they did that was above and beyond their job. So it's
wow.
not like, hey, Justin did a really great job at answering the phones this week because that's Justin's job. That's
Yeah.
not a shout out. A
Mm,
shout out is, Justin decided to stay Saturday and help out the team at the home show
mm,
and it's not really his job, but he went there and helped set up and,
mm,
did that. That's a shout out. That's
mm.
like going above and beyond. And those are the best parts and they take the most time. Shout outs are like, it's really energizing because when somebody else praises you in front of others, everybody walks out feeling pretty good.
Oh yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
yeah. It's the best part of our culture. And so I remember, I'm going to talk about this one part of my culture that I didn't know what our culture was back. Oh gosh, it was probably 20 years ago. And I knew culture, I needed to have some words to it. And everybody saw us at the time. They saw us as this high-end painting contractor that does really high-end work. Because I had all these movie stars and rock stars and all this type of people that would hire us to do the work. And we're doing faux finishes and all these, Venetian plasters and things that were new to the market. Because that's who I am. I'm an early adopter to most
Mm,
things. And
mm,
so I like to understand and find things first
mm,
as part of my marketing strategy. And when people would say, you're a high end painter. And I knew that wasn't exactly who we were and our culture. And so when people say, describe your company, people would describe it to us as like, you're high end, you do really great fancy work, you work for all the movie stars, blah, blah, blah. That's not who we are in my mind.
mm,
And I knew it wasn't right. So I did this exercise again with Kevin Nolan and the Nolan. consulting. This was 20 years ago, where they gave us a page with 70, 80 words on it. And they said, you can pick 10 words that relate to your company and who you guys are. And on there, there's like 50 you would choose, like professional, quality,
Mm.
fast, all these things that you would come up with, right? And they said, okay, you can only pick 10. You're like, well, it's hard. All right, let me pick 10. The 10 that most relate to us. All right. Then they said, now you can only keep five. Five, that's going to be hard. Okay, five. Now you can only keep one.
Wow,
Which one
one.
is it? And that's when the light bulb went off for me. That was that day. I remember that day like it was yesterday when I realized what our culture is. Our culture, the word I landed on was happiness. And I realized that I'm a people pleaser. I like to make sure people are happy. And so when I realized that's who we are, we just want to make our clients happy. We want them to be happy they chose Albright when they chose us. When we're finished with the job, we want them to be happy that we're in the community. We wanted our painting friends and community, the PCA, to be happy that Albright is a part of their community. We wanted we wanted the people that work for us to be the best place they ever worked because we wanted them to be happy. So that was it. So painting happiness has been our motto for
Wow.
20 years. And that was a powerful moment for me because I realized that's who we are. And that has always been our top value up until this year. And after 20 years, I realized I was doing it not quite right, even though painting happiness is still our motto. But I realized that through the book reading and through, years of wisdom, that happiness is a result of, it is not a state of being.
Mm.
And I went and changed our values. Our values used to be happiness, our top value. Second is trust and integrity. Do the right thing when people aren't looking, trust each other. Um, our third is a we, not me attitude. And the fourth one was, is this the best I can do? Um, and so those were our four values for the last 15, 20 years. And I didn't even realize you could change your values. Like I thought once you pick your values, that's your values, you stick with it. And I realized through book reading and some mentorship, you actually can change your values. So we just recently changed them this year to make it even easier for our whole team to know. And when we do these things, that's when happiness is the
Mm.
output. So our values now are better, brighter, and faster.
Oh, wow.
Those
Nice
are our
example.
three values, and it's changing our dynamic now because I wanted to make sure that my team understood that we've not arrived. We have to continue to grow to get better.
Mhm.
Brighter is all of those four things that I just listed earlier. To
Mhm.
be an all brighter, you have to be happy. You have to have a good attitude. You have to be about the team, not yourself. You have to be trustworthy. You have to be asking yourself, is this the best I can do? But that's the brighter side. And then faster is the part I felt like we were missing. There wasn't the sense of urgency that I felt we need to be first in a lot of things because when you're first, you own the market.
Mm.
When you're not and you're copying, just like I'll bring up Chat GPT.
Mhm.
It was the first to market. It is now dominating. There are so many different things. Google's trying to catch up. They don't even know what to do. And they used to be first. You got to be first into the market. You got to change these things that you do. And you got to work some extra hours. You got to be able to do the things to get it out there faster, get it better. And it doesn't mean we skip any steps or do anything sloppy. It just means we got to figure out ways to do things better and faster.
Wow. This is like I'm getting a masterclass on culture right now, and you're just spewing it out because that's just true of
Yeah.
your business right now. Like I honestly feel very honored
True.
to be getting this information. Just the fact that you're saying all writers and like, you would think you're talking about a sports team or some type of massive community, and you're talking about your painting company. And a lot of people don't think of things this
Yeah.
way. Like even when I'm thinking back on, we just switched over softwares into this big migration. It's super boring. Our meetings have been kind of boring. I didn't leave with
Yeah.
inspiration. I'm just like, hey, we got to move over the lead here and then this, and you got to make sure you click one. And it's like, all right, okay, break. And it's like,
Right.
wait, I got to bring in, why are we doing this again? Why is this going to
That's
benefit all of
right.
us? And so
That's
this is
right.
this is a great reminder for me, going over the vision. I will get that back on my ceiling. I know that's my own thing, but that
Yeah.
I did have to go over to my desk and it was folded and I'm not looking at it as often. So I need to make that,
Right.
more abundant with the team. And I'm just taking so much away. I really, really appreciate all the gold you're spilling out. Another thing I want to touch upon quickly, just because I want to highlight this, is Paint It Forward. When did that come about? Why did you create that? And because I'm sure it's going to inspire other people to maybe start a charity or at least give to charity through their companies.
Yeah. And I think you had some questions about marketing too. If you had time, I would do that as well. But we
Okay.
could save it for another one. Um, for Paint It Forward, that was a combination of things of how it got inspired. Um, one, I can give you the transition of what happened. So when again, Kevin Nolan Painting, back in 20 years ago, when he had told me his company painted a house for free, doing something kind of like that. It wasn't like the way we were doing it, and they didn't have a name for it or anything. Um, then I remember going, well, that's kind of cool, but I didn't have any interest in that. I was like, I don't see myself doing that. Anyway, then um, that that show that was called Extreme Home Makeover on ABC, a big, I don't know if you
Oh
ever
yeah.
saw that
Oh
show.
yeah.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Ty Pennington, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it was a big deal back 20 years ago when they would move that bus. And
Yeah.
anyway, I remember sitting there watching it with my two boys. Um, in our family room. We would look forward to that show every week. Sunday, I think it came on Sundays. And at the end of it, my young son says to me, "Dad, why aren't you on that show? Why don't you go that show?" And I'm like, I have no idea how you get on that show. I don't know how they call it, but I didn't know any of it. I'm like, I don't know. They've never asked. I'm not kidding. This is a weird thing. That week, they called me. The show called me and said, we were calling somebody in New York about who they knew was in LA that hung wallpaper, and they'd heard of you and
Wow.
wanted to know if you would come in and do this. And I'm like, this is crazy. Yeah, well, we'd love to do it. So I went and did that with my two sons and some of my guys that work for me. And we went and did that experience. And it was such an amazing experience. I thought to myself, well, why do we have to wait for a big TV show to come through to do this? Why don't we do this in our community? So we decided we're going to do it. And I remember talking to my paint rep and he's saying, we want to do this. Would you be willing to do it with us? He's like, yeah, but I don't think your guys are going to want to go do all that. And I'm like, I think we can do it. So anyway, we did our first one in 2005 and we got written up in the newspaper, the local newspaper and all that. And then we had such a good experience from it. Our guys were like, man, they wanted to donate the money I paid them to be there to the person that we were painting their house because it was a widow who lost her husband at a sudden heart attack and she worked at Burger King. So she had no money and she had two kids. One of her older sons was struggling very hard with this loss and she didn't know what to do. And so we came in and painted the inside and the outside of her home because he was going to do it before he passed away and it needed
Oh,
it badly. And so we went and did that. And my guys were like, can we donate our money to her? I'm like, yeah. And we talked about it for weeks afterwards. We said, we're doing that again. And then we started to ask our customers to vote on stories and we get more and more. And then I would go around the country. I was hired by Sherwin Williams to go and speak to all kinds of painting contractors, like Nick Slavic does now, and some of the other guys. I was doing that for 5 years prior, before the
Wow.
internet was bigger, and all the social media influence. But I would go around. I even spoke at the New York Mets Stadium one time for them, and I would teach people. I would teach these contractors that if you do well by your community responds and wants to work with you. And a lot of guys will say, I don't like to tell people what I'm doing. And I get it personally. If you don't want to tell others what you're doing charity wise, but I use it as an inspiration for others because that's who I am. And I try to inspire others to do it. And then it becomes something good. So I don't say, look at us, look at what we're doing, but that naturally happens for our community. And we hear all the time from our community that we're painting in our neighborhoods. We're not getting any other bids. We love what you do for our community. And the reason why is because they trust us enough. If we're going to give it away all the time, and they don't think we're going to be ripping them off,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So you have to give to get. And I don't give to get, but it is a byproduct again of what happens when you do give. Um, so that's how it started. It just snowballed. And now the PCA, the Painting Contractors of America, had requested that I share this with them, this concept, and they'll continue to call it Paint It Forward. They want to make me the founder of it. And now they want me to lead the initiative of doing national events with hundreds of painting contractors across the nation. Every time we meet at our expos, we go and paint a large nonprofit facility. And we've done that now for 3 years. And I chair that committee. And it's been amazing. The relationships, the things that we're growing, the things we're doing within those communities, wherever we're at, and the news outlets that come out and everything that happens, and the buzz that happens to that nonprofit, not to us so much, but to that nonprofit, the light we bring to that, because the news comes out and covers it. So you got 100, 200 painting contractors all painting together to do something good. Um, so it's been, and I've wanted to like, I've wanted to leave some legacy, something that I could be, that could outlive me. That's why I didn't call it Josh Abramson painting. I called it Albright because I wanted it to be something bigger than
Mm.
just me. I wanted it to be more powerful than that because I know I can only do so much.
Mm. Wow. Very inspiring. Very inspiring.
Good.
I do want to touch upon the marketing. So, what are some strategies that you're doing to get leads? I know you have the, word of mouth and referrals, and I'm sure are you guys doing Facebook ads? How are you getting all these leads in, and what are some of your plans to really increase the marketing for your company?
Um, so I don't know if we're doing anything different than anybody else in terms of the vehicles that we're using. Facebook, um, the the even the relationship marketing, of biz dev, or when it comes to SEO work and all that. There's a lot of stuff that you have to do these days to get noticed. Um, and so what my philosophy is to be different and not look like everybody else.
Hmm.
So if you can figure out what your niche or difference is, and I'm not really here to teach others, that part of it, but they have to find that on what's important to them. But for me, I want to share what I think is really powerful is to be able to share stories about who we are without talking about painting.
Hmm.
Like my style of marketing is let others tell those legendary stories about us, or let us tell a story about what it felt like versus what we actually do. There's a
Mm.
video that we have. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Um, that we won the national award for the best painting contractor video. Not a big pool, but you know, this was back in like 2008, 2009. No, maybe it's 2018. I can't remember when we actually produced this. 2018. Um, I wanted to create a video that spoke all about us, but never showed us painting and never talked about painting. But at the end of watching this 2-minute video, you would want to hire us to paint your place. So it's hard to do, right?
Absolutely.
How do you create a painting video that doesn't show that you're a painting contractor and doesn't show your guys working, doesn't show your vans, doesn't show any of it. But at the end of it, you're like, I want to hire those guys. That's what we created. And that's how I think about my marketing. I don't want it to be the same. I
Mm.
want it to stand out. I want it to be different. What can be different? And I think there's few guys out there doing it. And so that's my philosophy on marketing. So are my vans out there wrapped? They're going to look different than anybody else.
Mm.
In fact, I own the phone number 1-800 painting. I
Mhm.
also own the phone number 1-800 we paint. So, and I lease these out. I lease that out to other painting contractors all across the nation who
Wow.
want it for their area because I think it's a powerful brand. It stands out. It's different than anybody else's number. And even if people don't call it all the time and think of that number, like if I tell you, hey, how did I get a hold of you? Oh, just call 1-800 painting. They're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
How did you get that number? I got that number, right? And they're just like blown away by it. So that obviously is a powerful brand. It's going to stick with them. I remember advertising inside our local movie theater. It's on the big screen before any painting contractor would do that. I remember advertising on the radio before any painting contractor would do that and do those type of things. And I would try to get people's attention. I remember putting up this old man and lady laughing hysterically on the big screen. And the title was, "Are you as happy with your painting contractor as they are?" All right painting. And it just like that type of stuff instead of showing the normal
Yeah.
everyday thing. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. And
So
and what it yeah.
I was just gonna say, how are you gonna stand out in the same vehicles that everyone has to use for their marketing?
Yeah.
So think like that.
That's gold. And what that takes is risk taking and bravery. Because you like to say you
Yeah.
be the first at things, but you don't always know if it's going to work out. Spending whatever the money to put in the movie
Sometimes it
theater.
fails. Yeah.
Right. So how did you develop that sense of risk taking? Is that something that you were taught as you were growing up? Did you see it in a father figure or a mother, or where did you gain that?
Yeah, no, that's something that so I am it's funny. I would get down on myself as a man because I'm not a physical risk taker. Like I don't jump out of airplanes and climb, Mount Everest
Yeah.
and, swim with sharks type thing.
Hmm.
That's not where my risk tolerance is in, or I take more risks when it comes to business and marketing. I think everybody has risk, takes risks. It's just in what area of their life do they do it?
Hmm.
And we're all the same. We're all, you know, doing these things, but when we compare ourselves is where that it goes wrong.
Hmm.
So I've always been a risk taker. I think you're a risk taker in some aspects of your life,
Hmm.
and I think everybody else is. In that area, I'm able to risk money because my belief system is if I lose, I try not to hang on to money so tightly
Hmm.
that I always think that I have to have that perfect grip on it, that it has to flow through me. If I'm
Oh.
holding too tightly, it can't. And
Hmm.
if I'm spending too wildly, I'm going to lose it. So both ways I'm going to lose it. So I have to sit there and figure out what's the right balance of allowing it to flow. And I do that with my marketing as well. Like people would look at my marketing stats and go, "Well, you're not getting any calls from that. You don't get many calls to that." Yeah, but I hear all the time that people see it.
Mm.
So I don't care if I'm getting the call and trying to do the ROI, as long as I know that I am getting those touches and people, I'm building that brand. And that's not easy to do, takes money and risk to do that. Instead of trying to be tight with it and go, oh, I'm only going to spend it here and I'm only going to until I get that return that I want. Um, Now, there's wisdom in reviewing your numbers. I'm not saying don't review your numbers and not know, but take risks and know whether you're being branding, if it's branding or if it's actually bringing in, because there's so much happening that are impressions on people that you're around. You can be a guy in your town that just dominates, and there's still about 70% of the people don't know who you are. Even if you're dominating, you're the number one painting contractor, right? There's still 70% of the people just never saw you, never knew about you. And you're not going to get to them because they're not on Facebook or they're not doing the things that you're trying to advertise in. So I've always been big on making sure my vans are clean, easy to read, tell the story quickly, not, brand quick. That's why the 1-800 painting number is really important to me. I want things like that fast, quick touches that they're like,
Mm.
okay, now I trust those guys. It's all about trust because they saw you,
Mm.
not because they knew anything else.
Wow. I
So as much
always,
as you can be seen.
I've been in business for, for some years. You have decades of experience. And, I always thought, okay, business is the best sport. Business is a great sport. Business is a great sport. When I hear you speak, I start seeing an art to it. There's like, you have this, even the way you explain the money, how it flows and the culture and the different ways, the quick branding. Like I'm seeing you're playing not only a sport, but you're also creating you're creating a masterpiece. You're an artist and you're moving
Yeah,
with emotions. You don't see it as a rigid risk. It's like just a stroke of a brush that even doesn't work out, you can go make it into something later. Um,
that's right.
it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. It's
That's
it's
right.
it's really inspiring. So thank you so much for coming on. This is like I just feel like I got my cup filled off this. I'm sure a lot of people are gonna absolutely love this.
I hope so.
I'll put your Instagram in there, and it's honor working with you. It's honor training your team, meeting the Albright team. I look forward to it every
Yeah.
week. So thanks for choosing me to help with sales. And
Yeah. I look
yeah,
forward to more learning from each other because I think you have a lot to give. I think you have a lot you understand in business and a lot to share with others as through your trade launch school that you have. You've been, you know, probably a big inspiration to a lot of people right now that you may not be hearing from, but they're already starting to know who you are. So thanks for what you're doing out in our community. And I'm glad to be part of your uh, I don't know if this is your first one or your how many you've been doing, but
this
I'm
is
glad to be a part of it.
this is the second one. So
Second one, very
yeah,
good.
first one earlier.
And oh yeah, because we were supposed to do it earlier. Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, thanks. And I just say have an all bright day is what I like to say.
Have an all bright day.
Very
Cheers.
good.
Thank you so much.
Cheers. All
Bye.
right.